And we're live! Hooray!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Those Aren't Biscuits of 2018. Dear God, let this year be better than last.
Yeah.
If this is your first time joining us, my name is Jonathan Cadotte, and with me, as always, is Owen Adams. Say hi, Owen.
Hello.
We run a weekly pop culture talk show while we play games at the same time.
That's us.
Yep. And, yeah, it's an interactive show, so please feel free to drop in the chat, leave some comments, leave some questions, leave whatever you want, and we will read them periodically.
Leave! Just leave.
I am getting a kind of a nasty echo, by the way.
I'm not, though, so it probably is going to sound okay on the stream if you can live with it. Can you live with it?
Somehow survive.
I will survive.
I will survive.
Good.
So just go. Walk out the door. Don't turn around now. You're not welcome anymore. I should have changed that stupid lock. Should have made you leave your key. If I knew just 1 second, you'd be back to bother me. Now go. Sorry, I get a little caught up.
No, please continue.
So, as you can see here, we are playing Rock.
No, we're only about halfway through the song. Gonna need a little bit more.
As you can see here, we're playing Rocket League, a game that we haven't played on the stream before. We did record a video of us playing Rocket League where we had a little bit of a bet on the line, and
Yeah.
I completely trounced Owen. But today, I think we are going to be playing on a team together. So, yeah.
Are we? I'm not entirely sure we are.
I don't know. Well, we haven't worked that out yet.
Oh, well, whatever. I'm terrible at Rocket League, by the way. I haven't played it since we did that video. I liked Rocket League, but I was terrible at it, you know? I would say I didn't like it enough. Yeah, we're doing private match 1v1. Gone to this. Sounds fun.
Oh, okay.
I don't really mind. We can do whatever we want. Hello to Emile Deforge in the chat. Welcome. People who are new here,
Emile.
this is a weekly show where we talk about stuff. That's what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do we say that bit? I couldn't remember if you'd said it or not. I think you said it, but I figured I'd just say it anyway, you know? Just to frustrate your efforts.
Okay, yeah. I guess we'll start out with a little 1v1, and then maybe later, if we're feeling froggy, we'll hop on and play some actual people.
Okay.
Huh.
Hold on a second.
I think we can stand a team and play other people.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's a new year, man. What you been up to?
Well, the quiet New Year at home for me because we obviously do a lot of family stuff around Christmas, and by the time New Year comes around, I'm just done. Like I don't want to go to a party in the middle of the night. By that point, you know what I mean? Who does, really?
Yeah.
Boring people who like the song Old Lang Syne, I assume.
I like that song.
Yeah, there we go. Like I said, hello to Ninth Dimension Gaming. How you doing? So I'm gonna join blue. There we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna join orange then.
God, I don't remember the controls here.
Me neither.
Hopefully we'll sort this out. So, what we tend to do in our home is... Whoa, hello. Oh, that's jump. That's not boost. Is, what they call hogmany, which is... Oh, yeah. Oh, he scored while I was figuring out the controls. Such skills. Such finesse. We tend to do hogmany, which is like a traditional meal and a drink of whiskey and Rabbie Burns poems, basically. That's like the whole thing. So like the hogmany meal is haggis and what they call neeps and tatties, which in America you would call rutabaga and potatoes.
Sure.
And it's delicious. Although you have to use a homemade haggis, which is a little weird because it's currently like a haggis encased. It's like minced seasoned meat in potatoes. In potatoes? What am I talking about? In plastic. Boiled in a pan these days. That's how you do it.
In potatoes.
Pretty much.
Oh, that's nice. That sounds good. I've never had haggis, but I would absolutely try it.
I would say most people in England have never had haggis. It's
Oh, there's Boost.
Yeah, circle.
Yeah.
It's generally speaking, it's like it's got a sort of a reputation as being a disgusting food among people because it was traditionally cooked in a sheep's stomach, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that connection is really only about as important to modern day haggis as the fact that sausages used to be cooked in intestines. Do you know what I mean?
Right, and they still are. They're like, if you get the natural casings.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they aren't. Sometimes
they're not sausage at all. It's a chicken.
Right, exactly. These days haggises they tend to be just in a plastic case, like a hard plastic case, you know?
Right. Which is weird.
And you boil them, and then you open it up, and it's like a pudding, you know? In the traditional sense, not in the American sense of it's chocolate blancmange. That'd be really disappointing if that was the modern haggis, just chocolate blancmange all the time. This isn't like traditional haggis at all.
Yeah, chocolate custard in a steep.
You said it was a pudding. Damn Kraft buying our haggis factories.
This damn Americanization of our country has to stop.
To be fair, that is one area I'd be willing to support the claims that it had gone too far. If haggis became chocolate pudding. Oh!
Yes!
He was barely involved in that.
He is me. I'm right here.
I'm so bad at this. I was bad at this when it was new. We had haggis, which is good. We're a little cheeky because the traditional brand of haggis we get is not the one that is most like haggis. Haggis, so it's made of basically diced meats, usually lamb or mutton, right? So sheep.
Oh, really?
Whoa. Oats and barley, and then like seasoning, right? So it's a fermented. It is like a big sausage, right? So it's a sort of a fermented meat dish. It's quite dense, and then it's packed with like oats and spices and diced meat, right? That's how you make a haggis, right? So it's like a sausage filling, like that. But a lot of the traditional ones are really oaty, so you feel like you're in a sort of meaty porridge. You know what I mean?
Right, like some oatmeal.
A little bit. You know how oats have kind of that claggy texture to them when they're cooked, you know?
Yeah.
Imagine that in a sausage, and that's what. And I like haggis, but there's also this one that, like, any traditional Scottish person would be like, well, that's obviously more like processed and not as authentic. It's so much better, the processed, not as authentic one. So,
that sounds like a pretty good New Year's, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty good. So we do that, and we stay up late and watch TV. It's a quiet New Year's alone with a special meal. We've been doing it for years. And then you're supposed to have whiskey on the very occasion. And I have Glenmorangie, the whiskey from Highlander. I figure if it's good enough for Connor MacLeod, if it's Connor MacLeod's brand of choice, with all he knows about traditional Scottish culture.
Yeah, it's his why am I hitting it this way? With everything he knows about, you know, traditional Highland culture, with his Japanese katana,
and his French
Spanish
actor
mentor, yeah, and his French Canadian actor.
Is he Canadian? I thought he was just French.
I don't know. I thought he was French Canadian.
He tells that wonderful story about how when they went to film Highlander, they were actually filming in Scotland, and they were filming in this Scottish town, and at that point, the only thing Christopher Lambert had done was that that kind of gritty Tarzan reboot, Greystoke, Lord of the Apes. You remember that movie?
Right.
Pretty good film. And then Sean Connery obviously is famous for all kinds of things, but these days was mostly like famous for James Bond. So it was like we'd be walking through the village and someone would go, "Look, it's Tarzan and James Bond." I was like, so referring. One up.
Like, oh, the lovable Scottish people.
So bad at this.
It's funny though, because I feel like I'm really good at this, but I know I'm just playing you. So.
Gee, thanks. This is why I hate playing games. Like, there's no fun to it. This is why I don't do it on the stream. People always ask me to do it, but it's so boring because I'm not good at it, and I know I'm not good at it. So there's nothing to talk about, nothing to say or do. Do you know what I mean? It just play, be bored, and lose. Do you know what I mean? There's no fun in it for me at all.
This was weird. I don't know how this happened.
How what happened?
How that goal happened. Like, that was really weird. Oh. Hey, you're the one who said you wanted a sports game. So.
Yeah, like a terrible one. No one that requires skill.
What sports game doesn't require skill?
Damn it.
No,
Nice Dimension Gaming says, Owen and John, do you go outside for the minute that it turns the new year? No.
No.
It's cold. Do you know how cold it is at midnight, December 31st?
Yeah, like I live in Wisconsin. Like, on average, it has been colder in Wisconsin than it has been in Antarctica all year.
I'm so proud of that.
It's a weird thing, right?
You finally found a way something in Wisconsin exceeds the rest of the world.
Hey, we exceed in a lot of things. Alcohol consumption, cheese making, cranberry production.
I can't remember what I was watching, but they were talking about. You remember those two schoolgirls? It's not a funny story at all, but you remember those two schoolgirls that murdered their friend because they were trying to sacrifice her to Slenderman in Wisconsin?
Oh, right, yeah.
And I saw someone say, that's ridiculous. There are no slender men in Wisconsin.
That's funny. Because it's true.
Ninth Dimension Gaming says, Blood Bowl requires no skill, just strategy. Are you kidding me? Blood Bowl's really hard. You get people in the chat and they watch and they think they know how to play it. Because they've watched me do it for like 20 minutes. And then they say stuff like, go attack that guy. And I'm like, that guy's got like 3 times my stats. And he's driving a tank. Blood Bowl is deceptively complicated. A lot of people think they know how to play it just from watching me. And I can tell you,
I still kind of want to pick that up.
It's a good game.
So we can play. I don't know. It's like I said, it's really hard for me to kind of justify.
Oh sure. Oh come on! It would be a good podcast game too because it's turn-based. But obviously, when I bought it, it was on sale cheap. You know, and it needs to be because it's a budget game that doesn't cost a budget price. I think. Hello to Christian Skywalker. How you doing?
Is it still $20?
Something like that.
Yeah. Which isn't terrible by any means. Like I could afford that. I just. Yeah, I know. My New Year's was I was in bed by 9:30 because I had to work the next morning. So, yay! Thus is the life of a late 20-year-old. You know, it's just like the parties are over. Yeah, parties are over. It's nothing but back to the grind at work. Still with me there?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. Your life is so boring. I had no feedback.
It's funny because it's true.
This must be the most boring stream on earth. This is why.
Okay,
when people ask me to stream Rocket League, because it happens all the time, this is why. Because this is how every game of Rocket League goes for me. I have no proficiency with it at all.
Well, that's why I said, why don't we just play some people? Oh, I was hoping to get that last goal.
Well done. Hey, you won. It was close there for a minute, but
it was a real nail biter.
We were even for that whole first goal. Dear me.
Oh, look at my
So how about you?
Crazy.
How was your New Year? Other than you were in bed by 9:30, was it a nice sleep?
Yeah, I mean, I slept just fine. I was still kind of recovering that day.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads me into my topic for today a little bit. But so you keep talking, and I'll just remind me. It leads in. Okay, so how about we go the same? How about we leave the match? We'll go the same team, and we'll see if we can thrash some people. What do you reckon?
Okay. Yeah, I can leave match.
Give us a little bit of practice, so it'll be something more fun to look at.
Right. No, it was a pretty mellow day for me because I was that our drinking episode, which fell on the 30th, right? Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, I hit it pretty good. I drank a whole bottle of brandy for that show.
Uh-huh.
And man, did it fuck with me the next day. Holy shit. Like it was one of those hangovers where just like I felt like the whole world had like ended, you know? Like just like, there's nothing left on this planet if I feel like this. You know?
Right.
It was because you just like when you're that incapacitated, you can't imagine anyone else in the world not being like that. So it's just like,
yeah, you get into like a little bubble.
Right.
Hopefully, this will join both of us. Are you matchmaking?
Yeah, it should.
Mm-hmm. Are you loading? Awesome. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we did the drunk episode. I deliberately kept it as quiet as humanly possible that year, as gentle on the beer as I could.
All right, here we go.
What team are you?
I'm orange.
Yay! We're buddies! Friends again! It's weird that this game took off so much more than super rocket-powered, whatchamacallit, the previous version.
Well, that one wasn't... Was that...
Same game.
Online multiplayer at all?
It's exactly the same game. Pretty much.
Here's the name.
Rocket League is a better name.
Catchier.
No!
Oh, almost.
Damn you, Johnny Calcutta.
Johnny Calcutta. Oh, come on, he's a semi-pro.
Fair enough. Now I have to mention, this comment's borderline insulting. Now I have to mention, Gabe says, "This is so much fun," and then he says, "Mainly because I'm playing Getting Over It while listening to you." They're really writing a movie review. If Roger Ebert went, "This movie was so great, mainly because I was playing Snake on my phone while watching it."
Oh my God, we're so bad at this.
No! Well done, John. Whoa, hey, come here, ball. Come here, ball.
I have no boost. I got nothing. No one's even attempted to play defense. No. So this got me thinking about it. I don't know if you remember the drunk episode. Do you remember late in the evening of the drunk episode before we finished? Somewhat.
You got talking about the channel and the money and the earnings and things like that and how you want to go in the future, and you'd like it if the channel bring in a little bit more and stuff like that,
Sure.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. So I decided we should do something new on this show, and I think this is a good idea. Every week I'm going to bring you a Those Aren't Biscuits money-making scheme for us to try and speed that up a little bit,
Oh, okay. Sure. I'm always down for getting a quick buck.
Right. So the idea is that now I've already got my channel, right? So I'm limited on time.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But
so this is me. This is what I have to do.
I'm the ideas man, right? This is what we do. Mm-hmm. I bring my expertise. You do the grunt work. This is the division of labor,
sure.
right? I'm running like 3 YouTube channels now. I don't have time to do I'm already doing the hard work, John, of streaming from my PS4. This is my internet connection that keeps us afloat, Right. So the money making schemes.
Yay, Carlos.
You'll be doing the. So I figure each week I'm going to bring you the hottest new pitches that we're going to do for the next week, and then next week you can kind of come in and tell us how it went, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's what Gibby says, yeah, I made 120 today on one stream. I did, actually. It was really good. I got into a bidding war. It was cool. But we're going to, hopefully, these schemes are going to bring in even more. This is my idea. So my first one's called JC Cooper. That's the first scheme.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Am I robbing a plane?
Now. Hear me out.
I don't think I have to. Just... I know who DB Cooper is, okay?
This is completely different. Okay?
Oh, I'm sure.
So, Christian Skywalker says, what do you guys think about Sony making a movie adaptation of Slender Man? I think it'll be terrible. Because an original movie will be better. So, JC Cooper, you mentioned DB Cooper. It's funny you should mention DB Cooper. Because there are some similarities to that in my scheme, which I definitely hadn't heard of before. I've thought of this for us to bring in a little bit of moolah.
How do you know there's similarities?
Because I looked it up afterwards after many financial advisors I ran this plan past pointed out the similarities. Okay. So for people who don't know the story about DB Cooper was a guy, like he's an unsolved mystery, really, isn't he?
Right. Yep.
He's a guy who, he got on board a plane.
It's all urban legend status now.
Sure, although, unlike most urban legends, did legitimately happen.
Right.
He gets on board a plane and he hands the stewardess a note halfway through the flight and says, I'm carrying a bomb, and I want you to land the plane and let all the passengers off, I think. And then, I can't remember the exact series of events, but he basically says, we'll land the plane and then you're going to have all this money delivered and then we're going to fly out. And he arranges to have money delivered onto the plane and then have the plane fly across the forest. I think it was in the Rockies, right? Over the Rocky Mountains. I could be wrong.
Oregon, I believe.
Something like that. Some bit of untouched countryside. And goes into the back, make sure the crew's locked in the cabin, flying the plane, and then at some point over the flight, he jumps out in a parachute and gets away with all the money, in theory, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my scheme is...
And he was never seen again.
Never seen again, completely got away. So this is... So we're basically looking for, what this plot has in common with what we need is, like, a sudden influx of cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
One-man crew, only one man needed, and, like a perfect crime. Do you know what I mean? Like, no messy entanglements with the law afterwards, right?
Right.
So...
Yeah, those pesky coppers.
Exactly, right? So this seems like this is the perfect financing for our show, bearing in mind that our show is not going to get financing through legitimate means due to the fake media and the telling lies about us. And, so completely unrelated to the idea of DB Cooper is my scheme of JC Cooper.
Okay.
But I see a couple of problems with... See, there's you couldn't do DB Cooper's plan today, right? You know what I mean? You couldn't make it work for a couple of reasons, right? Firstly, quite simply, we're living in an era of heightened airplane security. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You try and smuggle a bomb on a plane, people are going to know. Or if you go on and you lie about that being a bomb on a plane, people are going to be like, well, how did you get the bomb through customs, Stuff like that.
Let's be clear here. I do have, like, a vacation planned in March. Please do not get me on a no-fly list right now with this, okay? Just please keep that in mind.
I promise you, that's not going to happen. So, so we need, basically what we need is, we need public transport. We need to be able to, we need to get you with your bomb. I'm doing air quotes here, but you can't see it. Onto, a form of public transport. You can...
No, I'm out. Please stop this.
You can abscond with, right? So this is the way I see it. This is the JC Cooper money-making scheme. I'm gonna need a copy of your local bus timetables. So I can keep you in the brains. But this is how I see it.
Yeah, no problem. I'll get you those right away. We don't have any buses here. My town is 3,000 people. Like, what makes you think that there's buses here?
Okay. I'm gonna need you to drive to a town with a bus. Okay? This is how I see it.
I'm so gonna have the FBI after me.
First things first, you need to drive to a town with a bus. What's the nearest town with a bus service?
I'm not telling.
Okay. We're gonna need you to drive to Milwaukee. This is where we're gonna base it. I'm guessing there are buses in Milwaukee. Is that specific?
Nope.
Is that vague enough? No buses in Milwaukee. This is how I say it.
There are.
Yeah. You're gonna need dark glasses. You're gonna need like a 1950s era suit. You can't be J.C. Cooper without a 1950s suit. How else will you blend in? You're gonna need a trilby. Can you get a trilby, Jonathan?
Yes, I can get a trilby. I'm not going to, because I'm not participating in this, but please, keep going.
You're gonna need a trilby. You're gonna need dark glasses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you've found a trilby, your dark glasses, I need you to travel to Milwaukee and get on the first bus you see. It needs to be the first bus, otherwise it's not random enough, and the FBI will be onto us. Okay?
Because announcing this plan on a live stream hasn't already done that.
They don't know where you live or what day you're going to Milwaukee. Trust me. All they know is it's going to be sometime in the next week. It's not going to be a problem, Jonathan. Stop picking holes in the plan. So armed with your 1950s
that I'm not
suit...
participating in, NSA.
your 1950s suit, your old-fashioned briefcase with, like, wires and a ticking clock inside, so it sounds legit. And your trilby. I want you to get on the bus. Halfway through the bus journey, you're going to replicate everything D.B. Cooper did. Slowly, I need you to get out of your seat, edge casually to the bus driver. They don't have conductors on buses there anymore, right? We don't have them here. Right? It's just the drivers. No. They take the change. Okay, you need to approach the driver and speak to him as a 1950s Playboy would address an air hostess. Be like, all right, sweet cheeks, honey bunch. Whispering so you can get like uncomfortably close and ask him if he'd like to slip out of those clothes and get into a dry martini.
Okay.
In your trilby.
Why is the driver a man in your scenario? That's kind of...
I don't know. I guess I'm getting too into the character of J.C. Cooper, 1950s bus heistman.
Let that be clear, NSA person who's listening. Owen Adams is the one who wants to do this.
Good job. Keep the cover afloat.
Not Jonathan Cadotte.
Good job. Keep the cover going. So, we don't want to give it away when you do this. So, sometime in the next week, John's going to be wearing a trilby, smart suit, dark glasses, 1950s briefcase with ticking clock inside. He's going to get on a bus. About halfway... This is our new money-making scheme. We're going to be doing one every week. And John's going to tell us how he gets on.
No, we're not, because I'll be in prison.
About halfway through the drive, he's going to approach the driver and say, "Hey, sweet cheeks! Nice looking vehicle you got here."
We had a nice long conversation about like how you need to be like responsible on the internet these days, or people are getting hurt. And right away, first thing on the new year, Owen's like, "Oh, I'm going to talk about a terrorist plot on the internet." Because nothing bad's going to happen with that.
So then John's going to slip out the business cards, and we'll design these. These are going to be, say, like, J.C. Cooper on them. Nice little writing. And we're going to have a little picture of you, right? And it's a picture of you wearing your little suit. And then doing, like, the Buddy Christ-like winky face with the thumbs up, and stuff like that. And then a little caption underneath that says, "You won't believe what I'm hiding in my briefs." And then you put your little briefcase up on the side while he's driving the bus, slipping a little business card, a little note that says, "I have a bomb.
No,
I want you to stop at the. I want you to just stick with it, John. How else are we going to bring in money for the podcast? You've always been an old stick in the mud when it comes to monetization. You got to modernize if you want to make it in this hot new era."
modernized by replicating a heist plot from the 60s.
Hey! The 60s plot was on a plane. We're bringing it into the present day by setting it on a bus. Okay? It's completely different. So
hot new transportation buses. Not like an Uber.
Yeah,
or,
but it's gonna be
like a Hyperloop or nothing. Just
it's gonna be like driving through the rich part of town. I guess at some point. I don't know if Milwaukee has a rich part of town. You're gonna have to fill me in on the details.
Yes.
So once it gets to the rich part of town, so it's a bit more modernized, you're gonna give this bus driver a card that says, "I have a bomb. Give me all the change from the register." What do they call those machines? What do you call a register when you're on a bus?
I don't know, like a till?
Right, yeah. Give me all the change from the till. Drop off the passengers, and then head for the freeway. Stay above 50 miles an hour or the bus will explode. I borrowed that from Speed. That's modern, isn't it? Yeah, you thought it wasn't modern enough. I ad-libbed a little bit for you to bring it up to date. So
movie from the 90s. Got it.
Yes. So the bus driver's gonna stop at the depot. He's gonna let all the bus drivers off. He's gonna give you the money from the till. So I'd get some of those, those little finger rolls where you put all the change into like a little, into a little coin holder. Bring some of those and a carrier bag, a plastic bag, because they might not fit. If they might rattle in your briefcase too much otherwise, right? This is gonna be the perfect. Yeah, Emile Defarge says it would be the perfect crime. Okay. Maybe get yourself a bus pass in advance or something, because, I don't know how much those tills hold, but if you're already shelling out for, like, the trilby, the briefcase, the suit, the, alarm clock, the wires, all that stuff, like, we want to make a profit here. We don't want that to be actually less than what's in the till.
You know what? When I'm being really, seems really strange to me, is you keep on saying we. Like, we want to make a profit. I'm not giving you any of this.
Confirmation that John is on board. So, because
I'm not doing it.
Good, keep the cover up, John. Good one. So, once the buses got back to the depot and dropped the passengers off, it should be you and the bus driver on their own. So, be nice to him. Try and charm him. You want him to kind of get. Basically, what we're trying to encourage is like a Patty Hearst Stockholm syndrome situation going on.
So now you're mixing the D.B. Cooper case with the Patty Hearst situation?
Right, what you want is to get the bus driver feeling vulnerable, but also admiring you and looking up to you if possible. So be like, it's just a podcast, we're trying to tell the truth, man, about how hard things are for bus drivers. Yeah! Right? You really want to get this guy on your side. And I think Stockholm Syndrome is the way to go. Possibly we should do this in Stockholm. I don't know.
Well, there's a Stockholm, Wisconsin.
Oh, there we go. We have our setting. So we might move this to Stockholm,
There's no
Wisconsin.
buses there.
Oh, shit. Damn it, John. Okay, we're going to need you to set up a bus company. So, basically...
So your money-making plan has now just become a legitimate, like, business enterprise operator?
That's plan B. So, now for the big finale. This is the important moment, because everything else, like, you've probably spotted the one flaw in the plan, really. Like, it's almost perfect, but there's one, like, tiny little, one teeny little weakness that where if we don't sort that, it all goes falling apart, right? You probably noticed this, yes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Just one.
Yeah. Which is that, we haven't made the getaway yet. At this point, you're still just on a bus with all our riches, right? Enough money to set us up for a good, like, week. Because this is a weekly thing, so unlike D.B. Cooper, who had to get, like, enough money to do it for life to make it worth it, right? We only need to get enough money to support the channel for, like, a week, right? Because next week we're going to have another scheme. Another hot-off-the-presses money-making scheme. So, I've just got a text from my girlfriend that says, not terrorism heist. Oh, not terrorism, heist. Yeah, no, you're right. Different, very different.
No, not really.
So this is where we do it, your big getaway. Now, remember when I said get carrier bags? Now, here's the problem. In this day and age of heightened airline security, they're going to look very suspiciously at a private citizen just trying to buy a parachute on eBay, right?
Why do I need a parachute if I'm on a bus?
Hear me out. We'll get into that, John. I've thought of everything, don't worry.
No.
So, you need the bus to head for the freeway, right? That's what they call them in America, right? Freeways. We call them motorways here, right? The freeway. We'll just make sure we're thinking of the same thing, right? Big roads, high-speed traffic, one direction, many exits, right?
Yep.
You're going to need it to drive till it gets to a raised section of freeway. Just tell them, head for a raised section of freeway without many cars. Now.
Am I jumping the bus? Like speed?
Yes, you're jumping the bus, John. That's okay. Just keep it cool. I believe in you, Jonathan. I don't want you to be going...
Oh, I believe in me too.
I don't want you to be going in there.
Wrong.
I don't want you to be going in there thinking that I'm doubting you, because I know that self-doubt is what holds you back the most. You know? Mm-hmm. And if we don't sort this escape out, it's going to be...
respect for the law.
If we don't sort out the escape, if we don't pull off the getaway, it's going to be self-doubt and jail bars. So we've got to really nail this, okay?
Oh, no, I'm pretty sure the jail bars are going to happen before any of this happens.
So I need you to go and get about 100, like, plastic carrier bags. The kind you'd get in a big supermarket. And a like a rucksack, like a backpack rucksack, right? We're going to stitch them together to make you your parachute. Then we need the bus to get up to top speed. So pick a fast bus if you can. Get to the raised area of the motorway.
I'll try to find the bus with the spoiler on it and the cool paint job.
Sports bus.
Yeah.
The sportiest bus you can find. Before you get on every bus, right? Remember, you got to treat them like 1950s air hostesses. But before you get on every bus, you got to be like, "Hey, sweet chicks, is this a nippy one? Is this a? Has it got a little? Has it got a little more pizzazz under the bonnet, Sonny Jim?" in your Trilby 1950s suit and briefcase.
Smart suit.
Right. And if possible, you could just throw in some politically incorrect remarks during the bus ride just to seal the deal.
Yeah, is this bus made by them Japs? You know, just
to the listener, he said it. That was not in my plan. I didn't write any of that down.
He actually sent me like. The funny thing is that this is scripted. Owen sent me a script, and in that he said that at that point I was supposed to say that.
They're never gonna believe that. They're never gonna believe that this clearly, I'm trapped in the snow here. This clearly ad-libbed moment comes from my beautifully planned script. I am totally trapped on the ice. There we go. Don't know how that happened.
We are getting destroyed.
Don't worry. Soon we'll be able to buy all the Rocket League wins we need with this sweet, sweet bus loose change. So anyway, then you climb to the top of the bus. You need the bus to get as fast as possible. We're going through Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee's most extreme bus chase, most remote highway. You wait till it gets to a raised section. You wait till you really get it fast, and this is when you need to pull the cord on your parachute. Now, with a normal parachute, you wait until you're obviously, like, in the air and a little far away from the plane, right? But with this, it's a little bit different because we don't have the same, like whoomph, you know? You know? Huh. You need, basically, your 100 carrier bags to pick up a little bit of air, right?
Right.
So you pull the cord, I guess. You're gonna have to rig up a card system. I don't know how to do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
The bags come out. 100 bags in. You shouldn't need to jump. I think you should just gain lift, you know? But make sure you hold, like, at least the handles of the two most extreme carrier bags left and right so you can kind of, like, angle, you know? Christian Skywalker says, does your script just have, like, 100 no on it?
Yep. I mean, no.
So, there you go. And then you sail away across the freeway. No one knows who you are. No one knows.
Can Enya's song "Sail Away" be playing while because it's modern.
I'm sailing away. Yeah, definitely. And you just fly off.
Yeah, that's Enya's "Sail Away." That's that song.
Oh, what's Enya's "Sail Away"? Sorry.
Sail away, sail away.
Oh,
sail
even better.
away.
No, you're right. I didn't hear you say Enya, but you're right. That is what we'll do is we'll fit you with fit you with an MP3 player with some cheap headphones because they're almost as good as speakers, you know. They'll be a little crackly, but you'll be able to hear it. Right, as you fly beautifully through the sky. And, yeah. And then, all that is left, you've got away with all the cash on board the bus. Every beautiful, shiny cent's worth is now care of Those Aren't Biscuits, Inc. Don't worry, I'll put it in wise investments, things like that. You know, keep it nice and, nice and tidy. And, all that remains, the only evidence they have of your crime is, you know, a little business card saying J.C. Cooper. They'll never know who it is, ever. Right? J.C. Cooper, and a link to our podcast so they can check out. So we get a few hits out of it. And a song in the heart of the beautiful young bus driver who is now madly in love with you. And hopes one day to see those piercing Wisconsin eyes again. And that is how we will be raising funds for the podcast this week.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No.
Next week, tune in again, where John will be telling us how the scheme went. Obviously, for reasons of obviousness, John cannot confirm that he will be doing this this week because that will get him into trouble with the bus police.
Or the real police.
But John, come on, have a little respect. The bus police are real police, okay? I know they wear those stupid hats, but you will show them the respect they've earned in the Police Academy movies. There we go. And that is this week's Those Aren't Biscuits guaranteed money-making scheme for us to try, and John will be testing it out first, and other people to maybe join in on. Oh, we on different teams?
Yep.
Oh!
Yep.
Traitor!
Well, glad you all got to experience what it's been like doing a show with this sociopath, Owen Adams, for 2 years.
Hey, I'm not the one. I'm not the one who got fresh with a bus driver.
You're just the one who wishes he would have.
I think this is a good scheme. I don't know what your objections are
not.
to it. I think this is a good, solid scheme.
No, it's pretty crap.
Not to mention, Gaming says, is this legit? No, this is pretty... Well, not yet, but next week, yes. John will be attempting this next week in the city of Milwaukee.
He won't.
You know what, John? It's very easy to find fault. It's very easy to just sit there finding fault.
Yeah, it really is.
But I've never seen you, like, contribute to our little schemes, you know? I have to do all the brain stuff. I have to always make sure everything's ironclad. Make sure you don't get caught by the cops.
The brain stuff?
Right. Yes.
I don't know, man. Like, had me fooled.
And yet, someone just sits there, little Picky Pete there. Little Picky Pete, not making any suggestions to make it run smoother.
My name's Jonathan. I don't know who Pete is.
Jonathan, the little Picky Pete. You heard it here first. The ancient mystery. But you don't even want to hear about next week's plans, where we sell the movie rights to the J.C. Cooper mystery. You don't even want to hear it, do you, John?
Not really.
You don't even want to talk about movie franchise rights. And
Not even a little bit.
You don't even want to hear about the J.C. Cooper cinematic universe.
I hate you. Guy.
It's going down well in the chat. Everyone in the chat thinks you should do it. Christian Skywalker says, John, at least try. Yeah, come on, John. Don't dismiss it out of hand.
Yeah, no, silly me. Why, how dare I poo-poo such a genius idea.
Emile Defoe says, this podcast should be trending. Knife Dimension Gamer says, yeah. Knife Dimension says, like, is John actually going to do this? I won't tell the police. I can guarantee, John obviously can't confirm this because that would just get him into too much trouble, but I can certainly confirm here in the UK that, where I'm less culpable, that John will in fact be doing this next week. Next week on the Milwaukee bus. the one bus in Milwaukee. Emile Defarge says the viewers want what the viewers want. Yeah, come on,
the
John.
viewers can go. The viewers can go straight to bus hell.
We got the highest,
right with all the bus cops.
We got the highest consecutive viewers we've had in months. 8. Come on, how could you turn down an audience of that size?
I don't know. I'm a man of many talents. I'll figure it out.
So yeah, tune in next week when you will be able to find out how this went for John, and unless John's still in jail, in which case, unless John is still hiding out from the after effects of this perfect victimless crime.
I just want to go to Bali. Like, that's all I want.
Next week.
I don't think I'm going to anymore.
If John has actually failed somehow not followed the plan, deviated from the plan, and ended up in jail, I will be happy to actually do next week's podcast with the love-struck bus driver.
I'm just going to say right now, if for some reason this does prevent me from taking my vacation, I will find you, Owen. I will find you.
8 people watching, 4 of them the feds.
Yeah, there's one representative from the CIA, one from the NSA, one from the FBI.
And someone from the Milwaukee Bus Company.
I'm on to you, Emile. Yeah. Yeah, fuck it, I'm in. Let's go. Let's go hijack a bus.
You know what? I'm glad you're on board. How else would we get such riches that we would not have to work for the next week?
And the best part about it is when I'm in prison, I can devote all my canteen money towards the show, actually.
Next week's show will just kick off. This is a call from Jonathan Cadotte, a resident at the Milwaukee State Prison, Wisconsin State. We'll kick it with the serial music. Doot, doot, doot. Yeah, fuck you, John. Emile Defarge says, you don't work anyway. Yeah. You got him. You called it, Emile. Oh, he's talking about me. You just spent 3 hours every week goofing off and playing games. Hey! That's 6 hours, mister.
I was saying, like, I have a job. I mean, I like it, but I do have one.
We are getting pasted. Ninth Dimension Gaming says, next week on Not Biscuits.
Oh,
and only this week's folk. John is, sick. I think he's going to be sick for a while.
He's out with a case of the Folsom City Blues.
John, on the positive side, he's got a kick-ass country album coming out next week.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm the man in orange.
Christian Skywalker says, wonder what the penalty John would get if he gets a guilty verdict. Guys, look, we've already been through this. It's ironclad. Life. 5 years for the crime. 65 years for the stupidity of thinking you would get away with the crime. And another 5 for refusing to give up the identity of his accomplice.
Oh no, I'm taking you down with me. Like, really? Do you think that's not what's gonna happen? Like, I'm ratting your ass out so fucking hard.
No parole for never showing a crack in his resolve not to give up the mastermind. The mysterious and feared underworld figure they call the Limey. Oh, that son of a bitch, he got me in there. I'll tell you exactly who he is so long as you don't let the jail door close.
It's gonna be... I can tell you exactly how it's gonna go. Alright, Mr. Cadotte, you're in a lie. Owen! It was Owen! I swear to God it was Owen. I'll tell you everything.
Emil says the plan is too solid to be found guilty. It's Owen's life's work. Well, if by life you mean about 20 minutes before the show, but I don't think it shows in any, like, cracks in the plan.
Except everywhere.
Emil says, I'm pissing myself with laughter. I'm sorry, Emil.
That's not good. I mean, I'm glad you're laughing, but incontinence is no joke.
Kristen Skywalker says, John, when you go to prison, don't drop the soap. He's not going to prison! He's gonna be fine. No one will ever know it was him. Just like nobody knows. Wouldn't it be... Wouldn't it be, like, really great if you got, like, through it and you start to get to the point where you need to get fresh with the bus driver. And he just looks at you and goes, don't worry, kid, I've been through this all before. And you found DB Cooper. Like, you've been driving a bus in Wisconsin. Pretty bold. I tried something like this once. Look, higher value target, though.
Kids these days just don't have the same gumption that we did. You know, when we went out and we did something, we fucking did it, alright? You damn millennials half-assing it. A bus? Really? A bus? Did some British idiot talk you into this? Just...
Wait. In my day, we had masterminds from Switzerland.
In my day, our masterminds were American-made.
Well, you know what, John? I have to say, you can poo-poo the cha-ching, but this week's get-rich-quick scheme has made, and you can tell this is good, solid financial advice, it's made this podcast one of the most popular we've done in a while, so...
Yeah.
Ninth Dimension Gaming says, Happy Halo Fish says, what are you talking about? Ninth Dimension Gaming says, a heist, but don't tell the police, it's fake. Yeah. Wink, wink. Fake.
I hate all of you.
Tune in next week for our exciting scheme about how we're going to get involved in
Jonathan out of prison.
Get involved in some fraudulent transaction deals involving a trip to Bali. It's going to be good.
I fucking hate you so much. This is my first real vacation, Owen. Damn you.
Oh, I may have scarred myself. That's right, Ninth Dimension. fake. Hello to all chaos. How you doing? Emil says, can we do a get rich quick section every week? We certainly can, Emil. We certainly can.
Yeah. And pretty soon we're going to start including the audience in on these schemes. All right? So really all we need from you guys, all right, is get in on the ground floor. You're going to buy some of our product. Now you need to invite 4 of your friends to also get in on the bottom floor, and then they add 4 of their friends, all right? And see how it works.
And they
is
tell
for every
2 friends, and they tell 2 friends.
And see how it works is all the money that you make, you get to keep, except for a little bit of a cut that I will take, and you know, for being a facilitator. But then all your friends beneath you, right? Because they're on a lower level than you, right? They get to keep their money except for a little cut to you and a little bit bigger cut to me for once again being the facilitator. See? You guys in on this? Like,
I'm disgusted. I propose a nice, wholesome bus heist, and you turn this get-rich-quick scheme section into something as seedy as a pyramid scheme. I'm...
You literally called it the scheme segment. Like...
Yeah, well, you know, a heist can be a scheme, but there's a little bit of honesty to it, you know? A little bit of honesty, Jonathan, that's all I ask. In my scheme.
I don't like you. Just...
Yes, tune in next week for the Barley Fraud Affair.
Doesn't have the same ring, nice ring to it as, you know, the Thomas Crown affair, but...
Look, I thought the J.C. Cooper heist was really good, but you've thrown it in my face, which means... Okay, look, John, I've heard you. I've heard you, Jonathan.
No, you haven't.
I've heard your concerns.
No the whole time. You never addressed it once.
Look, I've heard your concerns, and I get it. We might not be doing the J.C. Cooper heist. I'm hearing you loud and clear. I've heard your concerns. I'm making changes to the schemes going forward.
I'm not sitting through a whole nother plan.
They're gonna be
doing it.
They're gonna be bolder, more intricate, longer. They're gonna involve barley more
convoluted.
More convoluted with microtransactions and loot boxes.
and a messy UI.
Yes, I have heard your concerns. You're telling me there's not enough risk, there's not enough reward, and there's not enough sexy bus drivers. So tune in next week for our weekly get-rich-quick scheme. That's a new feature of the Those Aren't Biscuits show, even though this one's taken 45 minutes, which is honestly a lot longer than I was expecting this segment to go, but John's pain was too enjoyable. So... You went all quiet then. I honestly thought you just disconnected.
I was tempted. I was tempted.
There we go. So there we go. That's our Get Rich Quick scheme. Next week, John's going to be telling us how it went, and we'll be proposing a brave new way to bring in money for the channel.
Overtime. I get a little boom shakalaka. Sorry.
Now, Dimension Gaming says, John, make Owen solemnly swear to bail you out. Oh, I don't have any money. Sorry.
Yeah, if we had money for bail, we wouldn't have to do these schemes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, see, John's on board. We got the Wii coming out.
No.
John's on board and he's got Wii coming out.
Wii.
That's
all right? It's just the Nintendo Wii in a pair of sunglasses and a smart suit.
I am Wee Cooper. Give me money. Is that the theme tune to Pikmin? No. So yeah, what you been doing this week, man?
Abiding by the law like a good citizen. Not a whole lot. So, are we done? Are we done with that scheme?
For this week.
Okay. So,
The Jonathan Barley affair continues next week.
Right. Barley? The Jonathan Barley affair?
The Jonathan Barley affair.
Is it just me getting drunk? The Jonathan Barley affair?
B-A-L-I. While you're on holiday. The crimes that we're going to do while you're on vacation.
No.
You know, the serious international crimes we definitely intend to commit while you're on vacation.
So what have I been doing this week?
If I keep doing this, I might actually get your vacation cancelled, and then I feel terrible.
Yeah! No. And I would make you remember what you've done to me.
I'd come over and we'd do barley in Wisconsin. I'd bring treats.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to do the crystal clear waters and white sandy beaches here in Wisconsin.
We'll just get Crystal Pepsi and meth. They got both of those.
And meth?
They got both of those in Wisconsin.
You know what? Just Crystal Pepsi.
Just a giant homemade beach in your backyard of Crystal Pepsi and meth, right? And then we can make up for it afterwards by selling crystal meth, crystal meth spee.
You're really happy with that, aren't you?
To the two markets left that are so obsessed with those two fucking products, crystal meth and crystal Pepsi.
And you know who really loves soda? Kids.
Right. And if you thought sugar was addictive. Do you know what, John? I'm sad you got me on this topic. You've ruined next week's pitch.
This, not really sure I'm okay with the brave new direction we're taking the show in 2018. We've already committed to hijacking a bus and selling meth to kids.
What I like is I finally got you to say we've committed. Now could you just say the words?
Right, I mean,
could you just say the words "the crimes" so I can stitch them together later?
No. But no, what have I been doing this week? I started watching a show the other day. That was pretty good.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. For those of you who are expecting more heist talk, that's over, and now we're on to the pop culture section of the show.
Yeah, well, we do more sections.
Yeah. I started watching a really good show called End of the Fucking World. Or I guess it's End of the Effing World, because they always bleep out the rest of that swear. But it's clear what they're trying to say. But it's good. It's really good. And it's funny because it was very misleading to me. You know, because when you see a title like that, right, like end of the fucking world, you kind of think maybe this is like an apocalypse thing, right?
Right, like when you first asked me if I'd seen it, I had to double check to see if you were talking about like that Simon Pegg movie. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. But yeah, it's like, and that's kind of what I thought. I thought it was like, remember that movie that came out? Was it Seeking Friend for the End of the World or something like that?
Right.
Where it was like, it's kind of, cheeky look at, the apocalypse and, what happens like when normal people deal with the apocalypse and you're just like, whatever. Right? I kind of thought that's what this was going to be. Like, two teenagers, experience the end of the world together. So I started watching it. Not that at all. It is not that. What it is a story about two teenagers in England who basically go on the run together. Just kind of run away. But what's kind of what's really unique about it is the guy, or the male of the duo, he's a psychopath. Like he straight up says, like, I am crazy. Like, in all the, like, the traditional ways. Like, he explains how he's killed animals, and when he was a kid, his dad bought a deep fat fryer, and because he was just curious, he put his hand into it.
We've all done it.
Yeah. But, I mean, they show it, too. Like, they show this, like, little kid that put his hand into some deep fat, you know, boiling oil. It's just like,
Do you reckon it had,
God.
like, one of those hyper, like, method directors? It was like, now, Timmy, I don't wanna... Don't you care
it for
about the art?
But yeah, and then the girl is kind of like this, like weird, like, social outcast sort of thing, where she clearly has some issues, you know, like,
Hello to Sam Foreman, by the way. Welcome. Sorry, I just wanted to say
Hi,
hello.
Sam.
Na 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 do 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 do. Hey, sorry. Do you even get that?
Nope.
So that was the theme tune to Clarissa Explains It All.
Okay.
Do you remember she had that friend Sam and he just put the ladder up on the wall? Hey, Sam.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Hey, Clarissa. Yeah.
I just had a flashback to that when you said it. Oh, hello.
Damn it.
Okay, says, I'm sure John is going to make it sound worse than it is, and it's easier to just watch the trailer. Oh, fair enough.
Thanks, Org.
I don't think he means it like that, but I'm not quite sure what he does mean. But it might be reference to a comment I missed. Don't make it sound worse than
Org.
it is.
It's a really good show, but Jonathan's going to fucking ruin it. Just...
Well, that's usually how I think about things you describe.
Yeah. Fair enough. But,
like, I know that it's
but
gonna
yeah,
be... I know that the bus heist is gonna be totally cool, but you're gonna make it sound lame.
But no, the show is actually really, really good. Like, I don't want to go into too many plot points on it, because it's a very new show. And, it was on Netflix. And the weird thing about it, though, is I'm watching this, and I'm watching it with my roommate, and I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, this seems oddly familiar. Like, something about this seems familiar. Like, it almost feels like this is going to be... And I had this thought. I was like, this seems like it would be kind of like an indie comic or something, you know? Like, that's really the feeling I got from it. Like, this is the kind of weird premise and, like, dialogue that you would get in a, you know, like an independent comic, like slice of life comic, you know, something like Strangers in Paradise or,
Damn it.
you know, stuff like that. And then my roommate looks up and goes, and she goes, yeah, it's a comic. So yeah, apparently this End of the Fucking World was a comic book. I didn't know that.
No, me neither.
Which keeps my record alive, where I have yet to, I don't think I watched a single piece of, like, media from 2017 onwards that wasn't comic book related in some way, or video game or comic. And yeah, and that's still going apparently.
So how is the show?
Good.
Aside from
it's
just
really
just good. Hey!
Hey, look at you! You scored. About time, virgin.
I'm genuinely terrible at this game.
But no, it's really good. It's really well acted. It actually has I can't remember her name, but she's Theon Greyjoy's sister.
Oh, yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah. I can't remember her character name or the actress name off the top of my head. But she's in it, and she plays a police detective, and there's some pretty fun stuff that goes on with, like, the police as well.
Yeah, the police. They're about their lives over in Britain.
Well, it's because they kind of have, like, their own little side, like the cops who kind of get dragged into things. Like, I'm going to leave it at that. Have, like, their own, like, completely unrelated story going on, and and it plays out at the same time as like the rest of the show does. And it's pretty good. There's some. It's one of those kind of shows that Jesus, we're just getting destroyed.
Yeah, we are.
So it's really hard for me to kind of like nail down like what about the show I really like. But it's one of those shows where repeatedly I would look over at my roommate and I would just go, "This is a really good show." Like, but it's, you ever had like one of those situations where like you're really enjoying something like a lot, but you can't quite.
In fact, I'm going to talk about something after this that was the same.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what it was. I'm watching like this is really good because like there's shows, or there's been movies and shows that have done this kind of premise before. You know, two kids on the run. You know, they're fed up with their lives and they just go off on their own, and you know, and they have misadventures. We've seen that before. But this one just has like a little something extra to it that makes it feel just different, you know?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it is all on Netflix, even though, so I don't even have to watch it through the crappy Channel 4 TV catch-up service. I can just watch it on Netflix. I will try. Right. How many episodes is it, do you know?
8.
That's not too bad.
I've gone through 5.
I might see if I can get through it before the next show so we can talk about it properly. Because it sounds interesting.
It is really good. And I think every episode is really only a half hour long. So you can burn through it pretty quick.
Well, that makes sense. That's an odd format for a drama these days, isn't it?
A 30-minute.
Yeah, it's not common these days to see dramas cap out at 30 minutes, is it?
Yeah, especially when they're like on Netflix too. Because I watched another show a couple weeks ago called Friends from College, which I didn't like as much as this.
Oh yeah, I thought that looked terrible.
It had moments. It had some really good moments. But it had that same problem I have with a lot of shows these days, where the main characters are kind of just terrible people. Right. But you're also kind of like, but they're not just like complete, like.
Right. Like if you're going
sociopaths, you know.
If you're going down the Always Sunny in Philadelphia route, that works because it's so unrelenting and so completely done that it works. But if you try and do anything less than that, or anything less than, say, Seinfeld, where they do the same thing, it doesn't work. Right. Because they just come off like jackasses.
Yeah, and that Friends with College does that too, because like the whole idea is that like all these people are kind of in these like Arrested Development situations where, you know, they haven't moved on from college even though they're all like in their 40s, and whenever these people get together, they just become different terrible people. And like a lot of the show is devoted to pointing that out. Like all the other characters around them like to point that out. But they also try to give it some sort of like sentimentality, like they all have like reasons to be like this. Right. And it just doesn't work. And some of the jokes are legitimately funny. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some bits of the show that really made me laugh. But so much of it was like, oh my god. Like, yeah. I'm
a little focusing in on the game here. I'm like, no, we can win this one.
Right. The character that really got me, that really made, like, because a show shouldn't make you feel bad, right? Like, it might be like not necessarily a happy show, but it shouldn't make you feel like oh, that poor guy, you know. One of the characters' boyfriend, played by what's his name? He started out, he had like a kind of a viral thing that Billy Eichner on the Street or something like that.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
But he normally plays like these like really frantic and over the top and very flamboyant characters, and can give you a little... No, but he actually plays it straight in this one. Like, he's kind of the straight man. And Fred Savage, who plays his boyfriend, just basically treats him like shit through the whole show. But does it so in oh, I don't realize I'm being an asshole sort of thing.
Right.
And I just feel bad. Like, I just felt bad for him. Like, God, like, this sucks. So yeah, not giving that one my seal of approval. You know, it goes quick, but it was, you know, but yeah, 30-minute episodes. I think there was 8 or 9. I think that's kind of been Netflix's kind of deal. So.
Well, Netflix is interesting because when they first started going into originals, they had just a ton of really good projects. Now they're starting to have enough money to spend and broadening out enough that not everything they do is like a golden winner. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know? Some people, you know, I'm not saying... Like, okay, this movie Bright with Will Smith, that I thought actually had a really interesting trailer, actually. I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Has got terrible reviews. Which might have something to do with the fact that it's been written by Max Landis, who hasn't written a damn thing worth reading, really, outside of short movies on the internet. And
you know, has
keeps
sexual assault things going on.
And keeps getting, basically, his career buffeted up by his murderer father. You know what I mean?
Right.
Max Landis, son of the murderer John Landis, as I think I've introduced him every single time on this show, which I'm pleased to maintain that record. And generally, a lot of stories over the years have come out about basically Max Landis' career being single-handedly maintained by his dad, repeatedly managing to come in and plaster over his massive fuck-ups, which we didn't realize until recently extended to sexual assault, but yeah.
Right.
So, but that's not really hugely relevant to specifically what I was going to say about Bright, which is it's got terrible reviews, right? But apparently it's done very well on Netflix because the general consensus is it falls into that little sweet spot that's just kind of perfect for a Netflix movie of being interesting enough that you choose to watch it, and not bad enough that you want to turn it off. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And has some stars
Which
in.
is fine. Like,
absolutely.
There's
I don't have a problem with that at all.
That.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, not every movie needs to be, groundbreaking and amazing. You can you can just have a fun concept, you know, and just run with it.
And I would say that Netflix have been commissioning more stuff like that fits into... Because the thing is, I like having movies on Netflix that aren't necessarily winners that I just want to watch for fun and chill out.
I like a good, background noise movie, you know?
Right, well, before my birthday this year, I was talking to Beth about movies, and she bought me the movie I was talking about for my birthday that I said was one of my favorite films, despite the fact that I know it's not a masterpiece movie. I like it because it's a popcorn movie, but instead of being an action movie, it's like a popcorn thriller, if you know what I mean. It's not great. It hits the cliches, but it's fun, and there are moments where it's legitimately tense. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called Judgment Night, and I've literally never met anyone else who's seen it. But it's got Cuba Gooding Jr. in, Dennis Leary, Emilio Estevez is the lead.
Oh, I have seen this. When they're trapped in the city being chased down by the gangsters?
Yes. They hire an RV to go to a boxing match, and they take a shortcut and crash the RV and witness a murder. Mm-hmm. And then,
I have seen this movie.
It's a great movie. But not a good film. Do you know what I mean? Like, not a really, really amazing movie in terms of budget or getting everything right. But I think the real thing that really benefited me for that movie is it was one of those films I discovered unable to sleep at like 12 years old in the middle of the night on TV, right? And when you see a film like that, sometimes those films, they really stay with you. Because that film would never... It was so unsuccessful and so poorly received by critics. it would never have been shown at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. primetime movie slot, right?
I do remember it has a really, really, really just stupid scene, right, where they have to cross from one rooftop to the other.
Oh, across the ladder, yeah.
Yeah.
And they get across. And it's weirdly tense, even though it's just them climbing across a ladder. Mm-hmm. Carry on. Sorry, you say what you think. I've talked a lot today.
But yeah, like at the same time though, like Dennis Leary is there, and like they're trying to like parlay or some shit like that.
Yeah, one guy goes, "Yeah, I'll stop and make a deal with him."
Yeah, like the guy who's been trying to kill you all night. You're gonna stop and like, oh, we're gonna just work this out, huh? And yeah, he gets killed. Just kicks the ladder out from under him. Just,
but the stupidest bit about that scene is all the three who made it across first, they wait to see if he parlays the deal. They don't go, okay, well, he's parlaying the deal, let's get the hell out of here. They wait and gain, because, I mean, part of the problem with the movie is that the one big weakness in the film is, like, Dennis Leary and the gangsters...
the lack of talent.
The one big weakness to the movie is that Dennis Leary manages to conveniently...
Have a good night, Emil, and have a good night, Nines, if you go.
See you guys, thanks for watching. Dennis Leary manages to conveniently find them after they've got away like 3 times, and they run out of methods to, you know, cleverly get away from them. But I think that's a really good movie. Not, it's so strange because it's not good. You know, I know it's not a perfect film, and I know that it does some fairly fundamental things wrong, and I know it's overwritten, and I know it's cliche. But if you go into it with absolutely no expectations, you don't know what it is, you know nothing about it, you go with absolutely no expectations whatsoever, it's genuinely tense at times, and it's fun, and it comes together really well. And that's always been one of my favorite movies, and it's really sad to me that in this era of like Netflix and video on demand and stuff like that, you don't find movies you don't already know what you're watching anymore as much. It just doesn't happen as much.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really strange, because like, when Netflix first came out, you could still kind of do that, right? Like, you like, the way the format was and the UI, you could just kind of hop on Netflix and just start scrolling and be like, oh, well, okay. But now, it's like, they kind of bury so much of that.
Yeah, like, the best way to find something you've never seen on Netflix is to go to the search page and just put in any random letter. And then just be like, alright, what's this got? What we got beginning with O?
Oh, nice save. Yeah, it's... like, honestly, there's services out there that have now become better at that than Netflix. And, which is fine, because, like, I know Netflix, they made a very strong point to say that, like, we want original content. We don't want to... which is fine, because for them, it makes sense. Like, not having to pay, you know, studios and distributors and stuff like that to have on the service, and you know, not necessarily being able to gauge whether or not, you know, that's making them any money and whatnot. So yeah, it makes sense for them that, like, to change their format to you know, original content only. It just means like, well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because you could always tell where Netflix was going by the fact that they don't have, like, every public domain movie on their service. Because if it was me and I was setting up Netflix, I'd do that. I'd be like, can we get what can we get on here for free? I'll have it all, you know?
Yeah, like, let's just put the entire Criterion collection or whatever.
Right, whatever you can get. Because, like, and I mean, like, there are some really simple movies you'd think. The copyright years ago expired on Romero's original Night of the Living Dead, right? He failed to copyright protect it properly.
Right.
Which is why it's in every DVD store for really cheap, you know what I mean? But that means if you have Netflix, you can, if you want, or any service, you can have Night of the Living Dead on there, right? And that's a classic movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a classic horror movie. It's a lot of people with interest in it. Yeah. It's not on Netflix. Or it's not on UK Netflix. That to me...
it's on American.
That to me... Right. but it's not on UK Netflix, even though the copyright situation is the same here. That to me seems like a really obvious oversight. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff like that. And I don't, like, for me, that would be like a priority for the business. Like, obviously, don't do movies where the only surviving copies are shit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But are there movies the same way you'd expect any movie from that era to look, and they're public domain, and it's perfectly legal for us to have the public domain copy on there, and that's fine? Are they there? Okay. Why not have them? Why not make that a priority? Just be like, we will have those, all of them. You know? It seems strange to me, but then the reason, I suppose, is they want to move to curated content. They don't want people browsing around too much at all. What they want is people to look on Netflix and go, okay, what is Netflix saying I should watch today?
Right.
And I literally never do that because it's always wrong.
Yeah. It's very much the same sort of thing as, like, PlayStation. If you go to the store, where it's like... It's amazing how the games that they say, oh, we picked these games out for you. You should give them a shot. And they're always just the newest, hottest titles.
Highest profit margin, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, like, I don't know how many times, like, I've never played a Madden game or anything on this PlayStation under this account.
Right.
Never,
I don't think...
Not once.
Right,
and they, every time I go on there, it's like, oh, we think you'd like Madden.
And I know
why?
this sounds...
What?
This is going to sound like cliche Owen calling for regulation in the industry and stuff, but I don't think there's a single bit of recommended algorithm in that. I think it's a page where they put the best things. And I just...
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think they should be able to imply that it's somehow tailored for you when it isn't. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not. The only criteria they've gone by is this person looking at our store? Then we've tailored these choices for them. It's a bit cheeky.
Yeah.
Christian Skywalker says, I watched The Founder on Netflix, and it was a really good movie. I liked The Founder. I really enjoyed that.
I haven't seen it. I wanted to, but...
I pretty much...
It's one of those movies that I don't think I'll ever get to. You know?
I pretty much signed up for watching The Founder as soon as I found out it had Michael Keaton in, because I love Michael Keaton. I think he's a really underrated actor.
Yeah.
Og says, Netflix's suggestions are terrible. They used to let you not show documentaries, reality TV, etc., but they removed the ability, so the main page is full of crap I never would watch. See, we don't really have much reality TV on Netflix.
Oh, they got quite a bit. So, what was I gonna say? Completely blanked out there. You want to move on to our best of lists, or do you have something?
Well, I was going to talk about the first episode of Black Mirror because I think you kind of might be interested. Yeah, I'll talk about that, but I'll keep it brief. So I watched the first episode of the new series of Black Mirror, and I'm a little bit behind on Black Mirror because obviously the first 2 seasons of the show were a British show.
Is now 4th season or 3rd?
Yes. And funnily enough, put out by the same channel that put out End of the Fucking World, and it's on season 4, yeah. And it...
Okay, I like that. Is this season 4 or 3? Yes.
Channel 4 ran it for 2 seasons, and then Netflix picked it up again for 2 more seasons. And when Netflix picked it up again, they put it up as a... They I don't want to say they made it an American show, because it's written and produced by the same people, but they opened it up to an American cast and things like that. And, like, normally I wouldn't be a fan of that, because I think... I'm one of those people who thinks that TV shows are actually often inseparable from their own... In a way that movies aren't. They're inseparable from their own cultural background, you know? Like, you couldn't reset Breaking Bad anywhere but Albuquerque, almost. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's so tied to what it is. And also, like, Breaking Bad fundamentally wouldn't work in a country with free at the point of service medical care. You know what I mean? Like, that's just one example. But Black Mirror actually, because it speaks to technology and stuff like that, it's much more translatable in the... But I'm a little bit behind. I haven't watched any of season 3.
What about the Amish, huh?
I haven't watched any of season 3 yet, but I figured I would get on with season 4 because you might have seen in the trailers, the first episode of season 4 is actually a promoted as a take on Star Trek, 1960s Star Trek. And this kind of intrigued me because Black Mirror's had some interesting premises. Like, one of my favorite episodes is about a service, a woman who signs up for a service that lets you talk to your loved ones after they've died. What they do is they analyze their social media, and they use that to create like a bot that talks as them and posts as them with messages only you can see. And then as she gets deeper in and gets more advanced with it, they offer a more advanced service where you can talk on the phone, and eventually quite some rather haunting services and things like that. But
ninth, if you want to go to sleep, man, just go to sleep, all right? We don't know
don't worry about
how long we go. We don't really have a set time.
Pretty much. And then ultimately that technological story of, hey, could you make a service that simulated a person enough and sell it to grieving loved ones, becomes a story about when is it right to move on from your memories of someone you've lost. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of show it is. A 1960s Star Wars almost parody Star Trek didn't seem quite in keeping with the show. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I watched it, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it with a little bit of spoilers, because you said you might not get around to watching it, right? So I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, because it was a feature-length pilot, really. It was about, it was about an hour and 15 minutes, which is, and it's actually really good. It opens with a pure, a little skit that is basically played for laughs, but 1960s Star Trek. It's a show called Space Fleet. There's a ship called the USS Callister, and there's all these different officers, and they all come together under a charismatic captain who always makes the right decisions, and it shows you this world, and you're like, what's going on here? And then what it actually builds up is that this is almost a fantasy. It's a computer sort of run simulation, basically, run by a guy who runs a company that sells a VR game that is exploring space. It's basically virtual reality, but high-tech future virtual reality, where you feel like you're really in the game. Think like Total Recall, or that kind of thing. Put implants on the side of your head, and you are in the game. Yeah, and he runs a company, and he owns this game, and this game is basically be in Star Trek, right? But unlicensed. And then on his own computer at home, he's got like a little modded version where he's made it look exactly like classic Star Trek, right?
Right.
And so this guy is, in his own fantasy, he's the captain, right? But in the real life, he's kind of shy. He's quiet. He doesn't interact well with the people in his office, and he feels bullied by his business partner who doesn't really recognize his value, and no one else, and even though he's the boss and joint owner of the company, no one else in the office really respects him that much, so he's got this odd relationship. And then you see that he goes home and he plays his modded Star Trek version of this VR game where you're actually flying around space, and in the real world it's like a big online game, but he's just got his own private little server where he has his own little crew, and the crew of people are all other people he knows from the office, right? They're perfect recreations of the people he works with, and he lives out his fantasies. But as it goes on, you see, this new girl comes to the company, and she seems to be actually interested in him as a person. She admires his abilities as a coder, and she pays attention to him, and he starts to get a little enamored. But you also start to see that
little geek got in love.
You start to see that the simulation isn't just for fun, and that he actually takes his frustrations out on the people he knows at the office. So he becomes a bit of a bully, right? He threatens people, he goes, he screams, he shouts. And at first it's kind of weird, because you're like, okay, so we got these two things, with this old cliche of the geek who lives out his fantasies at home and just wants the girl to love him and things like that. But then you kind of see that he's got this dark side where he'll abuse these people a lot. And this is where I'm going to get into spoilers, so anyone who hasn't seen it might want to go. But as it goes on, it starts to get really clever, because it takes like a mid-story twist where he overhears the new girl at the office say to someone else that she isn't interested in him. And in her rage, he goes to her coffee cup and he takes a sample of her DNA and he runs it into the computer, and the next day she wakes up in the simulation. Only it's not her, it's a and this is why I thought you might like it, but you gave me permission to spoil, so I'm going to it.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that his simulations of his friends in his own little version of the VR game are actual, full psychological and genetic simulations of them.
Oh, okay.
In the computer. And they're sentient. They are people who believe themselves to be trapped in that ship. They know what they are. They know they're duplicates. But they're real, thinking, feeling people simulated in the thing. And so it changes, because early on you're like, okay, well, it's a bit creepy that he simulates his business partner so he can shout at him and rest his feet on him and stuff like that and abuse him. But then you realize that these are, for all intents and purposes, within this perfect recreation of the environment they're in, these are real people. You know? They don't have a body in the physical world, but they are as real as any player in the game, because that's the level the VR is at. It takes your brain in the game. And so you build this dual narrative where you have these crew of characters who are basically on this ship forced to live out the obsessions of this crazy dictator who doesn't really see the people he's remade in there as real people. You know what I mean? He's real.
Right.
But he doesn't see his recreations as sentient, even though he knows they are, you know? He's created a perfect world where he can rule over the people who've wronged him in real life, while not being required to engage with the people, not being required to engage with them in the real world, you know? And shutting himself off. And I won't go so far as to go through the whole ending and the whole plot, because I would still like people to watch it, even though I've spoiled it a little bit, but it's really worth watching. It creates a really interesting hybrid between... There's a little bit of, not quite Westworld in here, because these are not, you know, these aren't simulated people who become real. These are perfectly copied brains put in a simulation, you know. But there's a little bit of Westworld to it, in that there's these people who no longer have real lives coming to terms with what it means to be people with memories and lives while in this simulation. And then there's also a little bit of legitimate Star Trek action. I mean, it ends... Again, not to give it away, but the conclusion is more about people on a spaceship than it is about people in a computer. You know what I mean? Okay. And it's actually really great. And really worth watching. So there you go. I want to talk about that a little bit. And I went into the plot a little bit, and I spotted a little bit of a twist, but I warned people beforehand. I think that's kind of a brave move for a TV show. Particularly for a TV show that is... It became more like traditional Black Mirror as it went on, but what I liked so much about it was... Here is a plot that is fundamentally required to... You have to get a sci-fi concept, which is totally perfect virtual reality that takes your brain into the game. And yet what it was about fundamentally... it was about how the shy, innocent victim geek isn't always an innocent party when they turn that isolation and victimhood into a weapon against other people. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, we see that daily on the internet, you know? Right.
And it's something I felt in certain ways, you know? Do you know what I mean? I've been the isolated geek, and yet I felt that turn... I felt feelings like that occasionally rot into actually hating people for it, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I thought that was nice. I think, and that's when Black Mirror really works, when it uses sci-fi to explore human nature, and it's always done that.
Right. I mean, that's when sci-fi is good in general.
Right.
When they can take a off-the-wall concept and make a very human... oh, goddamn, I was in position, too.
Yeah.
And, you know, make a very human story out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the best episodes in season 1 is the sci-fi concept is all human society basically has these implants that let them visually record all their memories, like recording things on a phone, but it's always stored all the time. And you can then replay them whenever you like, or transmit it wirelessly to a TV, you know, like stream it. And so people have parties where they'll sit around and just show off their memories, like they would share videos on a phone. And so everyone perfectly recalls everything. And then within that framework, it's about a guy who starts to suspect his wife's having an affair. So he'll do things like replay a conversation where he thinks she said something suspicious over and over, rewind and replay and rewind and replay and zoom in and zoom in, he thinks one day he joined her at a party and she didn't seem pleased to see him, so he rewinds the greeting and then sends it back and plays it again. Do you know what I mean? So that
Right.
natural tendency people have to obsess, reflected through a world where you can physically
Obsess.
yeah. And Black Mirror is interesting because it's certainly not a feel-good show.
No.
But often but it does find these moments of hope sometimes, I mean, the first episode of season 4, the USS Callister one, it has possibly one of the happiest endings I've seen on a show like that. And one of the most, I say happiest, one of the most, one of the least misanthropic endings, I think.
Right.
Although they do get a nice little dig at online gamers in there, which is funny.
Because, you gotta.
Yeah. But no, it was great, and it was so fascinating to see. I know it sounds kind of strange when it's so common these days, and Black Mirror is such a successful show, but it still almost takes me by surprise to see sci-fi used like that, because it wasn't on TV for so long, It went so neglected to get TV that was really about thoughtful ideas,
Right. I mean, and we've had a lot of that,
Yeah. Right, like, we talked about Westworld.
Right, well, okay, well, that actually gets into, like, our best of stuff.
All right, let's do it. Best ofs. Let's kick it in. I've talked for a lot, you talk for a bit. You do your best ofs first, and I'll do mine, because I've been talking a lot today.
So I was thinking about this, and honestly, I wasn't giving it a lot of thought until, me and Owen got together to start recording, or, streaming. And, so it's not like I've done this for, it's not like I've been sitting on this for, a week thinking about this, but, I thought it'd be kind of fun, just as most people do, it's a new year, so let's do a best of, thing, what do we think are, and, so I think I'm going to expand it a little bit, because I told Owen, game and movie, right? Best game and movie. But I think I might expand it just a little bit to game and, like, visual media,
Yeah, go for it.
Non-interactive visual media. Because my best of that, because I was really thinking hard about, like, movies that I thought were really great, and there were some really great movies I saw this year. Like, Wonder Woman was amazing. I really liked The Last Jedi. Logan was really good. Stuff like that. But it's like, but none of them really, like, got to me, I enjoyed them, and I think they're good, but none of them really hit home in the old cockles of the heart. But one show did.
So now, if I pick any of those for my best movie, you've basically already shit on my answer.
Oh yeah, I was going to anyways. But my thing was Westworld, which I know didn't come out this year, but this was the year I saw it.
Oh, good. Can I pick Judgment Night then? Because it was the year I watched it again. No. I'm going to play by the rules, Jonathan.
So yeah, I'm picking Westworld. Because that show really, really, really captured my imagination. And it just fired on all the cylinders that I really like. I love stories about, the idea of consciousness and sentience and I love those kind of stories, even though I still haven't seen Blade Runner. But yeah, it did that, and like it was a show that, like Owen was saying earlier, I saw it as a very brave show because it never once like dumbed itself down. Right? It was unabashedly an intelligent show.
Right. Like I would argue that the fundamental resolution, and maybe this is going to sound snobby, but I'm still going to say it. I would argue that the fundamental twist and resolution to that show, the fundamental resolution to the big mystery and to everything that's been going on, is something
oh my God.
most people I know wouldn't actually understand fully.
Right, and I agree.
And I don't mean to be like, I am smarter than most people I know. But I am a little bit more versed in sci-fi than most people I know.
Right.
And I just don't think people would get it.
Or, maybe not even sci-fi, it's just the idea of applying a philosophy to things, It's,
right.
Because that's what that is.
You don't get many shows that the big twist conclusion is application of a theoretical development of consciousness model.
Right.
And it's not necessarily about intelligence as much as it's about, there's a lot of different things to be interested in and to have a baseline understanding about before you even start to put that concept in a framework that makes sense. Right.
And that's what I thought was the weirdest, or not the weirdest, but the best part of the show was you had this show that like fired on two cylinders. It was one, a very deep thinking philosophical thing about consciousness, and even scientifically, like Owen said, like it was all based on this like really theoretical idea about consciousness. It's very technical and that, but then it also worked as a condemnation of like current like viewpoints on society.
Right, and neither were dispensable. It wasn't like you could watch the show and maybe get that out of it if you wanted, but mostly it was about shooting guns and riding horses. The commentary on society is unavoidable. And the abstract concept of consciousness is a fundamental narrative point.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's a really good show, and there's also the whole I'm not going to sit here and talk about this forever, but like every storyline that plays out in that show serves a purpose and has an almost separate meaning and purpose, like I said, with some very very heavy philosophies as like the framing, because you have like the Man in Black and William. His whole storyline speaks to something much different than the bordello owner, or the madam. I can't remember her name.
There was the ultimate rebuke of William, ultimately, wasn't it? In that all this time you spent with him as the user who doesn't even the one evil person who seems to have no concept that they might even of decency to them because they're totally not alive at all. Ultimately began as the strongest believer in their humanity.
Right.
And it's what's so interesting about that is it's very hard to write it off later and say, oh, but he knows they're just machines. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like how the people vegans hate the most are ex-vegans. Right.
But yeah, I mean, so that's why it's my best of in 2017, because it was showed. I mean, were there weak spots in the show? Yeah, there were some lulls in the writing and stuff like that. But altogether, when you look at that show as a whole, it succeeded on so many levels, and it, perfectly acted. You had Anthony Hopkins just putting in one hell of a performance. You had what's his name? The guy who played Bernard. Why can I think of his name? He was amazing in it.
Yeah, phenomenal actor.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I've seen him in anything else though.
Have you ever seen Cadillac Records?
No.
Oh, that's a good movie. The second and third Hunger Game movies.
Oh, of course, he was the one who made like traps
the gadgets
and things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was in that, and he's just really good. He was in the Bond movies as well. He played the CIA.
Oh, Felix Leiter. Did he?
Yeah.
Was he kind of fatter in the Bond movies? I remember him being.
A little bit.
Okay.
He was a chubbier guy. He's lost weight.
Fair enough.
Right. Something Right. God damn it. That's his name. Something Right. Wright. Let's see here. Oh, Ninth Dimension, who I thought went to bed. Go to bed, young man. Says... it says... All I will say is I enjoyed that at the start, then it got too weird for me. And that's understandable. That is an absolutely understandable reaction to that show, because...
And it does lag in the middle.
Yeah, it does lag in the middle, and one of the things it does, I don't want to call it failing, but nothing in that show is overt. Like, they
never spell anything out for you.
Right.
But I do think... Sorry, I do think a weakness of the show is that the stuff they don't spell out for you would come across a little better, and the middle would lag a little bit less if it was just a couple of episodes shorter, because there are a few episodes in the middle that they feel like they only exist to try and throw you off the scent a little bit, whereas I'd rather it was just over faster. Not because I'd like it to be finished, but I think I would have made it a couple of episodes shorter and just cut out a little bit, because it's fair to say in the middle there's occasionally like one twist too far that doesn't really always serve the plot, and it often feels like it's a weakness introduced by the need to be a TV show, not just a drama script. You know what I mean?
Right, and there's like this. There's some moments where it just doesn't jive with the rest of like the universe, I guess. Like Like there's this whole bit, with the Bland and Black trying to find this maze, right? And
they never really. Yeah, sorry, carry on. You say.
And like he never really like gets there. And you figure out like what the maze is, but there's really no. There's something to suggest that there's really no reason for him to be looking for it, or
right.
Or like the clues that he gets that like doesn't make any sense. Like,
right. And
why would
ultimately they do explain that like, okay, he heard about it years ago. But I also thought that they didn't, like, for all that time they gave us in the episodes that we had, I felt like we could have had the William reveal earlier, and then we could have spent more time on how he became suddenly evil, because that does happen very quickly. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if they'd done that in the second to last episode, or do you know what I mean? If we just had a little bit of time to explore that, I felt like it ended a little bit too quickly. And then there are some plots that I feel get a little bit too much time. Not that I think they're bad plots. I've forgotten the name of the character, but the madam from the brothel. Her plot is really good, and I like it, and it's one of my favorite plots in there. But it doesn't overlap with any other plot, right?
Right.
And that leaves, and it gets a lot of time, and that leaves the plots that do overlap feeling overly squeezed, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But
so yeah, but those are very minor issues. It's a great TV show.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's funny because I think it was a show that neither one of us really had on our radars. You know, it was okay.
Right, I knew about it
and stuff like that. Yeah,
I guess,
but there's
my issue with it is
there's nothing about it for me there's nothing about it that screamed to me like, oh, I want to watch this.
Right,
and the reason I came about it was I had a kind of free trial run with HBO Now, or HBO Go, excuse me. And so I'm like, oh, well, this is on here. I'll check it out. And I just fell in love with it. And I ranted and raved it to Owen. I think that's what got him on him.
Yeah, then I ended up finishing it sooner than you just because I was hooked.
Right.
That's how good it is.
So yeah, that was my best visual media of the year.
I think my mistake is I thought I knew what Westworld was before I saw it. Do you know what I mean? I heard about it and instantly built up a ton of expectations, none of which it actually met. Do you know what I mean? Negative expectations.
Right.
Okay, so shall I do my best of for a visual thing? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, okay. My best of for visual movie.
Well, all movies are visual.
Hold on, I'm gonna read this comment. Kerr says, so the ending was like the season 2 ending of Chuck, where they basically held back an entire third season of story into 2 episodes, and were going to be cancelled because the show was just dragging on. It's not really like that, to be fair. It's what happens is they try to wrap up a plot in an epilogue, because what they do is they bring one plot. The problem is it's very difficult to talk about without giving too much of a spoiler for this ending, and if you haven't seen it, I really wouldn't want to, because it is kind of the linchpin of the whole series. But because it's the linchpin of the whole series, they end it at a really good point in time, but then they have these loose ends that are to do with how a character then progresses to another state we know about. And it basically is like flipping an evil switch, basically, to be honest.
Yeah. They don't try to cram like a new story into it all. Like this is the ending, or the ending of the show does end the plot that we've been seeing.
It's just a bit too neat, and then it just goes, and then he did this.
It does have that kind of thing about it where, like we said, like the show is unabashedly intelligent and very, very smart. Which works most of the time, but it does open it up to this kind of bit at the end where it's like, oh yeah, this is how fucking smart we are, and screw you, no one saw this coming, you know?
Right.
It kind of, it took the enjoyableness of it being smart and kind of used it against the viewer, Right.
I mean, I didn't see it coming either. I did pick up on one clue, but I honestly thought they'd just written a contradiction.
Well, I can't remember what the plot point was, but remember I accidentally predicted it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember what it was that I did, but there was a really important
I can remember exactly what it was, but I don't want to say for anyone who might be watching, because it's pretty much the biggest spoiler in the whole thing.
Say the name that it involves.
I'll say it involves time periods.
Okay. Yep. All right, now I remember what I predicted.
Okay, so my favorite visual media, I'm going with a movie of 2017, was Get Out, which I was honestly blown away, because I wasn't really expecting to like it, because I don't like horror movies. Did you see that
bullshit with the Golden Globes?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I can bring it up afterwards.
So, Get Out is a comedy horror. I'm going to explicitly say it's comedy horror. I'm sure some people... It is! It's a comedy horror. There's lots of comedy in it. About a guy who... a black guy who goes to meet his white girlfriend's parents. And from the minute he arrives in their home, is kind of aware that something is wrong, and it gradually becomes clear that something very distressing is happening. and it becomes a very unsettling horror movie involving all kinds of bizarre plot twists. It has one of the most ridiculously absurd second half plot twists I've ever seen in a horror film, that when you first see it makes you go, really? And then when you actually get a feel for what they're doing is incredible. And it's great. And it's what's so fascinating about it is this is explicitly a movie about race, and I am probably one of the whitest human beings who ever lived, and I'm not qualified to discuss it, but I do know a lot about movies, and what I do love is right from the very moment our protagonist, who it's been a while since I saw the film and I've only seen it once, so I've forgotten his name.
Chris,
right from the minute Chris arrives in this home, the movie does an incredible job of making things that should feel welcoming feel insincere, creepy, and unsettling, and does a great job of making... It does a really great job of making white people attempting to be nice and non-racist to a black person seem like the strangest, creepiest, and most threatening thing you've ever seen in your life, which I imagine is the point. It's supposed to show you how white people trying to be nice can feel threatening. Do you know what I mean? In a world that is racist, fundamentally. And I thought that was amazing, and it is a really good film. It's very funny. It's very well written. It's scary in ways you've never really been scared before. And yet it does it with probably one of the wackiest and silliest ultimate threats in a horror film. The way it comes out is so silly and strange and overblown and like a comedy movie. At times it feels almost like a parody of the genre it's playing in, you know? And yet it's probably one of the most memorable films I've ever seen. It has no real jump scares. It has no gore, really, not in a huge way. It stays so far away from the usual horror tropes, and yet it manages to make reasonably normal situations feel very unsettling through direction, through really good writing, through just incredible filmmaking. It's a really great movie, and I loved it. There you go. That was my best of.
That's great. There's been a lot of talk about this movie, and unfortunately, it's one I haven't watched yet, and I think I'm going to. I am going to watch it. I mean, I know the plot. I know what happens. I've spoiled it for myself. I read the wiki, and but I do really want to see it. I still want to see it. Almost out of, I don't want to say obligation, but kind of obligation.
I wonder how well it works if you already know the end. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if it'll be one of those that'll work or not. Because there's no way of knowing without spoiling it for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Or do you know, so it's interesting.
So this my phone would switch back to vertical view because I can't really read the chat.
I'll read the chat. Allcast says, I sadly predicted the ending of Breaking Bad due to the horrible looks into the future they hadn't actually written to the script yet, so they backed themselves into a corner. I think the final season of Breaking Bad's actually not that good. I love the show, and the final season has some really good episodes. The train robbery episode is really good, but if you watch the show through, it seems painfully obvious to me that the final season of Breaking Bad is not planned like the others were. It feels very... The final season of Breaking Bad feels like the show totally ended with season 4, but with enough loose ends that they had to write another season to get it resolved. It just feels like epilogue, basically.
Right.
Great show, still a great season, but yeah.
So,
You doing game?
Well, no. So I was gonna. I mentioned there was some bullshit with the Golden Globes.
Oh yeah, no, I want to hear this. The Golden Globes was today, right?
Is it today? I don't know.
It's
but it was about nomination, and it's something that not only the creator Jordan Peele is upset about, but a lot of other people are upset about. So, because everyone was talking about Get Out, how it's one of the best movies of the year, you know, and needs recognition and stuff like that, and it got nominated for Best Comedy.
I wonder if they were trying to be clever. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think that they were. I think it's another case of poor representation in Hollywood.
It's strange to me because having seen the movie, like it is a comedy horror, but it's a comedy horror, not a horror comedy. If that makes sense.
Right. And to me, it's like, I'm not saying that, you know, those kind of issues can't be dealt with in a humorous way, but I think it's really trivializing when you look at what these, you know, racism, and especially like white liberal racism and stuff like that. Like, these are really important issues in our time. I think it almost trivializes them by saying, "Oh, this is a funny comedy movie."
Right, and if it was the same type of movie, but it wasn't about race, it was made with, say, predominantly white people, it had the same sort of tone, but the issue we were talking about was, what's a good idea? I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Economics. If it was about poor people, poverty. You know, if it was about somebody that was grinding up poor people, do you know what I mean? It wouldn't. I think you're probably right. It probably wouldn't have had that issue.
Right. Well, I think about. I think it's a case of other movies with predominantly white casts, like they're generally like these. Whoever does these nominations or whatever, they're all generally okay with looking past genres to give to give good movies their due. Like, I think about Sideways, right? Sideways is a comedy. It's absolutely a comedy. It has some dark subject matter, but it's a comedy with Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church, and it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. But it was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It wasn't nominated for Best Comedy. It was Best Picture because it was a damn good movie.
It's so strange to me because... But, I could totally understand if it had been nominated for Best Horror. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it is a horror movie. But nominating it for Best Comedy seems so strange to me because it's not... I mean, I'm totally agree, by the way. If it was up to me, I would nominate it for Best Picture. Completely. Like, right. I think it deserves to be up there with the Best Picture films. Absolutely. But there is something weirdly infantilizing about nominating it for comedy specifically.
Right, exactly.
That's such an odd choice because there are lots of comedies with humor in there, right?
Well, generally comedies have humor.
Sorry, there are lots of horror movies with comedic elements. Right. But I've never seen one classified outright as a comedy before. You know what I mean?
Right. It's... Yeah,
because to me, a horror comedy is Scary Movie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Comedy horror is Scream.
Right.
And I would say Get Out is more surreal and it has some more overtly comic characters, but it's much more in the tone of Scream than Scary Movie, right?
Right.
So is the controversy, is it about it being nominated as a comedy, not a horror, or it just not getting the Best Movie nomination? The Best Picture nomination?
I think it's the fact that it's comedy. You know, had it been nominated for anything else, you know, horror probably, or I mean, there's not really a Best Horror category.
Well, to be fair, if it had been nominated for Best Romantic Comedy, it would have been Best Romantic Comedy. It would have been really badly.
Right.
No, you're right.
Or, you know, like,
it's strange to me.
Best Direction or Best Acting or anything like that, you know, would have been fine. But they specifically went out of their way to nominate it as a comedy, even though no one in their right mind thinks that that's a comedy.
You're
like,
right. It's
comedic,
got that.
Yes, but not a comedy.
It's got that vibe of, well, we've got to give it something to recognize the fact that we can tell it's a good movie, but we don't want to give the prestigious movie to the silly, funny black person film. It's got a funny black person in it. How can we give it the... You know what I mean?
And that's what I mean. Like, and like, all the hype that this movie has received, like, it's received a ton of hype, you know?
Well, it's a great film.
And so I mean, the funny thing is, like, how tone deaf do you have to be to go, oh, well, this movie is absolutely beloved by critics, it's beloved by the viewers, people have been talking about this all year since it came out, and, you know, it came early in the cycle, and everything like that. Let's give it comedy. And, like, how do you not expect there to be controversy over that? Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, it's very strange.
Like Jordan Peele himself came out and said, like, this isn't a comedy. Like I did not write a comedy. Yeah, it's just, it's weird. It's a weird choice, and you know, I think very insulting.
Yeah, and then there'll be the people who's like, well, at least you got nominated for something.
Right.
And it'll be the same people who are like, why don't people like Zack Snyder's movies? Why aren't they getting the...
Well, no, those people are the same people who are like, well, just happy you have your own water fountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, moving on. Games.
Yeah, tell me your best game of 2017. I know which one it is. That's
right. The classic theme to Kung Fu Panda Showdown.
Soup.
Soup.
I couldn't help thinking of that today. I didn't mean to. I was unintentionally my brain riffing on it, but as soon as in Assassin's Creed Origins I got into the bathhouse and it let me just bash into people naked.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was having a great time.
So this one was a little bit harder for me because I played a lot of games, but I also didn't play a lot of games, and a lot of games I didn't finish and things like that. So there was a lot of things that were on my best of list, you know, and some things that were kind of maybe unexpected. Like I almost put Marvel Heroes on my best of list, because I think it was, you know, a really great game, especially for a free-to-play game, you know. And I won.
And then it died.
And then it died. But I ultimately went with a game. I kind of came down to two. One was Horizon Zero Dawn. I think that's a really amazing game. It's beautiful. The gameplay is fun. It's challenging. It's really challenging. And it's a damn good game. But ultimately, I went with
the
Pyre.
demo for Nier Automata. Sorry.
Almost. That was a damn good demo. Did I talk about that at all?
Yeah,
That
but
demo?
not on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went with Pyre. As my best game of
the visual novel.
It's not a visual novel.
That's what you said. It was like a visual novel.
It has visual novel elements to it.
You said
but
it's basically a visual novel, and you wasn't expected. You did. I remember. We'll find the episode. That's how you described it to me.
I might have said something like, "Oh, the story plays out as basically a visual novel."
Yeah,
it does, but it's not.
All right, come
novel.
on, talk about Pyre. Go on, have fun.
Pyre is just a really good game because it
haven't played it. Not interested.
TLDR. But no, it's a really great game because it does some fun stuff where the basic gameplay is very simple. It's very simple. It almost plays like a sports game, and it kind of is. It's, you know, you try to get a ball into a goal, but the ways you can do that are wildly different, and your characters have different abilities and different stats, and some are fast, some are slow, some have wider ranges for attacks, and some can fly, and it just it's all this kind of stuff. But then they layer on this thing that's mostly played on story, but it does have gameplay ramifications in it. Is that as you're playing these matches and you get further along, you get better and everything like that. Your players level up and they skill up, and then, but once you reach like the end of like a cycle, you have to send one of your players home essentially, and you can't play with them anymore. You can't use them as a character. So you spend this time like leveling up these characters and putting a lot of time into them, and then you have to basically get rid of them. And like you can do that thing where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna send home all the people that I haven't been leveling up, you know, kind of min-max it that way. But the story, it plays out in such a way that you don't want to. Like there's like narrative reasons why some of these people should go home, and so if you get really involved with the story and that, like, you're kind of forced to make a really difficult decision, gameplay wise. And the story itself is beautiful. Like it speaks a lot to things like anti-intellectualism and oh, this motherfucker who just hit me. My own teammate hit me out of the way of the shot, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's like the story just speaks on so many different levels, you know, from things like, you know, family and caring about the people you love and wanting to change things, and just, you know, as opposed to just wanting kind of a more better living situation, and the idea of, you know, ritual ruining lives and dictating so much of our lives. And it just, there's so many little nuggets in there, and each one plays out with a different character, and which is why when it comes down to choosing someone to go home, it makes it very difficult. And
it's always very painful when a game makes you work like that. Makes you make a sacrifice to move forward.
Right. And yeah, it's just, and it's beautiful. The soundtrack is amazing. Real simple art style, but used very effectively. It kind of has this storybook made out of stained glass look to it, which is really nice looking. Yeah, so that's my best game. If you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. It's by one of my absolute favorite companies making games right now, and that's Supergiant Games. They've made Bastion and Transistor and now Pyre. They've only had 3 games, and all 3 of them are amazing. So yeah, if you guys have not checked that out, do so. That's my best game of the year.
Hey, awesome. So when I hear mine, you probably guess what mine is. I really came very close to making Cuphead my best game of the year. And I held off because I haven't finished Cuphead yet. Because I only started playing it in the last about the last week or so. Just before Christmas. And so 2 weeks, I say. I couldn't really get away with doing that. Because it might be terrible, you know, from the end. You know, I might never finish it and find it just too hard. It's really difficult, but it's a really great game. So that's my honorable mention. My game of 2017 is Breath of the Wild. And I know that's a lot of other people's game of the years. And it's so boring to have the game everybody else has got on the list. I know. But I just can't get away from the fact that that is one of the games I've spent the most time playing this year. And, you know, partly this is because it's portable as well, so you can, like, stream it for an hour and then be like, alright, I'm gonna go take a dump for the next 45 minutes because my fiber in my diet's very low. But while I do that, I'm gonna grind some dungeon puzzles. You know what I mean?
Right.
I basically lived that game for a few months, and you know what? I never felt bad doing it. I never felt like, oh man, I'm probably putting too much time in this. It was always a case of, I want to pick it up and play more. It was just a great game. The freedom to it was wonderful. The design to it was wonderful. You know, like any game, there are flaws, like we were saying with Westworld, you know. Even something as perfect, that seems perfect, has issues. I think the two biggest things people have raised issues with are the weapon durability, where weapons are basically ammo. They right. grind that fast. Some weapons are almost single use, you know, and that's a legitimate criticism that you will never find a weapon in the game aside from the Master Sword that you can say, I'm going to have this most of the game, you know, and there's no repair. Right. But that is a gameplay mechanic. Some people like it, some people don't. I, quite honestly, don't. I neither like it nor dislike it. I can't say it would... For me, if they fixed it or changed it, it would not affect the game for me one little bit. Which, for me, probably suggests they should have changed it, because it annoys some people, whereas it adds nothing to the game, I think, for everyone else. But that's a small issue. The issue I find more annoying with it is basically the rain. It has dynamic weather, and there will be days where you're like, okay, my next quest needs to take me across here. The fastest way to go is to go up this mountain. That's where I need to go. And it'll start raining. You'll be halfway up the mountain, and then you won't be able to make that climb anymore because some climbs you cannot make when it's raining. That is frustrating because it's the big game basically deciding, because of a totally random situation, hey, you can't do this now, you know?
Right.
But I've also seen other people who like that, you know? And that's obviously what they were going for. Something to encourage you to spend a little time in the game differently, you know? So, I get that, but besides those weaknesses, what you had was a game that was beautifully designed, running on a console that has probably less power when you really look at it, maybe just about the same sort of power as an Xbox 360. It has one of the biggest and most beautiful open worlds I've ever seen. So much attention to detail. It really has everything that Nintendo is known for putting in their games, which is just time and effort and thought and little bits of care everywhere. One of the nicest things about it, which I think over the years, there'll be people who play Breath of the Wild in different ways, and that's totally cool. I know a lot of people who went straight for the Four Guardians and straight for Ganon, you know, and that's great. But one of the most interesting things about the game is you can find quests in Breath of the Wild that are never signaled to you as quests. You'll never get a guy who goes, hey, do you want to do this? And it'll get added to your list. You'll just meet, for example, I met a singing bird who goes from town to town performing music. He was a traveling bard, right? And he belongs to the race of bird people. And he told me about his being, separated from his family, right?
Right.
And if you follow the things he says and you listen to him and then you meet other people in the world, you can actually orchestrate to reunite him with his family, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's not a quest the game gives you. You just listen to what he says, and you can actually follow what he says to places in the world and do it. But it isn't a quest. It isn't a thing the game's asking you to do. It's a fact of the world that you can participate in. And I liked that. I liked a lot of stuff like that. And there were things like... Sorry, did I cut you off there?
No, go ahead.
There are things like that throughout the game, like people found out quite late on that there are these balloons you can get that when you kill a squid, you can make an inflatable balloon with them. And then you can use that balloon to attach it to things with other things. And so a few weeks after the game came out, people were using it to make sailboats that turned into airships, you know?
Oh,
and then steer them around. But nowhere in the game does it ever say, hey, try attaching this to a boat, you know?
Right.
And so that was Breath of the Wild for me, a way to... there are these 4 labyrinths throughout the world. And I found my labyrinth really easier to solve by actually finding a way to sneak on top of the labyrinth so I could see all the way around it. So it was just... it was a game, one of the few games I've played that really makes you feel like you are actually inhabiting its world and living in it, you know? And it's almost post-apocalyptic too, because Hyrule is almost post-destruction. The society has regressed a little bit, and so you've come from basically being in suspended animation to come back to save the day into a world that isn't really interested in you, doesn't know who you are. Most people in the world aren't really following what's going on. The animals that exist there would exist there whether you were there or not. And you feel like the intruder on that world. Not like it was built for you, but Breath of the Wild gave me a game where the world feels like it would exist whether you were there or not. Almost like it would exist even if you turned it off, you know? And that was kind of amazing. So there we go. That's pretty much Breath of the Wild for me.
Alright. No, yeah. I mean, it's a game I don't think I'll ever really play since I don't have a Switch. I have no intentions of buying one. Nothing against the Switch. I don't know. I've never been a big portable guy or really Nintendo, really. Just, I don't know.
Well, I'm glad we had this chat.
Well, I'm just...
Sorry.
I can absolutely appreciate what people love about that game. And hearing people talk about it, I'm glad that it exists, you know? Oh, my God, really? So we got a little bit more time on this match, so I'm just going to do something really quick at a third unexpected category. Most interested game that you'll never play. And for me, that is Doki Doki Literature Club. I will never play that game, but damn does it seem fucking fascinating to me.
Yeah, it does seem interesting, doesn't it? I watched a playthrough of it.
Like, it's... Like, you know, the horror things alone will keep me away from it, but I also don't really... I'm gonna exit the main menu here. I don't have any love for those anime visual novels. I really don't.
Oh, we're gonna get hate mail.
From who?
Yeah, nobody's watching.
But, yeah, I don't particularly like those visual novels, so that's the reason why I'm not going to play it. But the things that it does later on, where you have to mess with your game files and you have to do all this sort of stuff, seems really, really cool, and I'm glad they exist. The same sort of thing like with Undertale. Like Undertale does some stuff like that. I have a quiet appreciation for games that make you kind of do things outside of the game.
Yeah, me too.
But I'll never play it. So that's mine. Doki Doki Literature Club.
I played a game on the channel once, really, really early on. Someone had made a game that had no coding. It was a choose-your-own adventure novel, but you played it by opening folders on the desktop. So they put it in folders, and then used links within the folders to send you around. So they'd made a game without using any kind of storytelling engine. They just used folder structures in Windows, which I thought was kind of clever. But yeah. Okay, says in later years, the only games I played on Nintendo were a friend system. Ocarina of Time, Metroid Prime, and games like Mario 64 just made me hate the camera that I didn't want to finish it. Yeah, I mean, that's a controller issue, too, because the N64 was not equipped for that.
Absolutely.
Ocarina of Time's okay, because there's no platforming. So you're very rarely in a situation where you need to quickly switch the camera. But, Metroid Prime's fine. Metroid Prime has, oh, it didn't have it in the first one, did it? But Metroid Prime got full, I think full FPS camera control by Metroid Prime 2. I could be wrong. Oh, do you know what? To be honest, the last time I really played that was on the Wii, so... And that had, like, full FPS. But Metroid Prime, I think the reason they did it that way is they were specifically trying to sell it as what they used to call a first-person adventure game, rather than a shooter. I mean, it explicitly is, but they were trying to downplay the FPS angle with it at that time. Prime is a great game, though. So, technical issues aside.
I've heard it was really good. And it looks really good.
Yeah. Beautiful game.
So yeah, so what's yours, real quick? What's the one game you're most interested about, but you'll probably never play?
Well, you know, until recently, I probably would have said Cuphead but I've played it, so I don't know. Most interested about, but probably never play. I don't know if I have anything that meets that category. I mean, there are a few things on PC, but then I might play them in future. But I'm not planning on playing them recently because they wouldn't run well on my PC. Okay, here we go. I will say the most interesting game, but I just don't have the equipment to play it right now, and I don't know if I ever will. I think Hello Neighbor looks really good.
Oh yeah.
Kind of fascinating.
That looks interesting. That's one of those games where I think I'm more fascinated by it because of like game theory and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't really get that. It's not that I don't mind game theory, but to me they don't influence how I feel about a game. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I suppose.
Well, yeah, like I would never choose to buy or not buy a game because of them, but I like what they do for giving me a different appreciation.
It kind of annoys me in a level because they did a game theory about Cuphead, right? With the game theory being they picked up enough little evidence to suggest that the Elder Kettle and Cuphead and Mugman are moonshiners and that they're being used to ferment alcohol. And it was an interesting video based on evidence around it, but I hadn't seen it. And when I streamed Cuphead, every time I said something like, I don't know, there's an episode where raindrops fall, and I was like, shouldn't he worry about, not have a problem with raindrops, they'll just land in his cup. Someone in the chat was like, that isn't water in his cup, because if you watch the game... Mm-hmm. And it irritates me, people who take those videos to be something everyone else has to acknowledge as fact. Right. And you get a surprising amount of it. Yeah. So I deliberately now try and distance myself from them a little bit when thinking about the actual game, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, some of them are really good. I think the one about the Guardians being evil in Destiny is fascinating.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites.
And does add to the lore of the game.
I think my favorite, the one they did on Doki Doki Literature Club is really good too. Because it doesn't, and I like all like the stuff they've done with Undertale. I think my favorites though are the ones that they kind of, they're not necessarily theories, but it's kind of like we're gonna explain a bit of history here. Because they do that with Bendy, that survival horror game or whatever about old animation.
Right.
But
so that one looks good too.
During the theory, they basically explain like the history of like East Coast and West Coast animation styles and the rivalry between Disney and the company that made Betty Boop. And
oh man, do you ever have those weird moments where bizarre coincidences happen? So while you were saying that, I was also scrolling through Twitter, and I scrolled to a tweet about Disney the exact second you said Disney. I always find it really weird when that happens, you know?
Oh yeah, that used to happen to me a lot, where like I'd be thinking about a song or something, and as soon as I get in the car, it plays on the radio.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's what I got for this week. You got anything else?
No, not really. All I was going to say on the subject of game theory was I was okay with game theory, but it started to rankle me a little bit when I tuned in one day and they had that video, Owen Adams is a big smelly farty pants. And
yeah, that was
or like I'm really watching you through your
it's just
window.
Kind of like fact conversation.
Or like I'm watching you through your window right now, Owen, and when you close your laptop and go to sleep, I'm going to kill you.
That's one of my favorite episodes.
Haven't really enjoyed those videos as much.
Oh man, they're on my like watch repeat list. Like,
no, I'm pretty much dumb.
Oh yeah. All right. So yeah, we're gonna head on out of here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for talking to us in the chat. Thank you for leaving messages and having to sit through that get-rich scheme thing. It's not gonna happen.
New one coming every week.
Yep.
Brand new segment.
Alright, thank you all for watching. And please, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. Help us reach higher subscriber goals. We got a bunch of things planned for that. But yeah, like and subscribe, share with your friends, tune in every week, because here we will be. Until... Oh, wait, forgot something. I've been Jonathan Cadotte, and he's been Owen Adams. Where can they find you, Owen?
Go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams.
And you can find me on my personal blog, which is johncperson.wordpress.com, or you can follow me on Twitter, which is @johncperson. Yeah, until next time, have a good one.
Bye-bye!